So, CrowbCat made a new video, and this time it's just about TF2. More accurately, it's about comparing the graphical differences of the game from release and the current version. And it's become quite a controversial video, which isn't really all that unusual for CrowbCat. But I wanted to see if the comparisons that he made were actually fair, or if they were just nitpicking or were out of context. So I'm going to watch the video and give my opinions on every comparison he makes. Before we start, however, I found it curious that he only used some of the most foreboding and serious songs of the TF2 soundtrack. Now, I'm not claiming that he's trying to manipulate people into thinking that these issues are super serious or anything. I just want to point out that music can have a very big effect on how people perceive information. And I'd argue that if this video had happier music, then people wouldn't react nearly as negatively. This is something he's done before actually. I mean, using dark, ominous music in a video about CSGO skins? Yeah, that's not going to influence people's emotions at all, right? But I digress. Let me begin.
Welcome to Team Fortress 2. After 9 years in development, hopefully it will have been worth the wait.
We can see that the game has way more options nowadays, though I think it should be even more, such as detail and prop distance, amounts of props at a time, physics movements, etc. It's not bad at the moment, I just think it should be more. Alright, the new model being lower is a good thing, because it doesn't obstruct as much of the screen as it did before, which is better if you wanna actually see what's going on in the game. The removal of the shiny lighting on the metal was a good idea in my opinion, because no metal textures or objects in the game shine to the same degree, making it look more consistent and much nicer. Plus, the lighting is softer and therefore not as obtrusive. But to be honest, I would say that whether you like the new or the old lighting mostly comes down to preference. The old flamethrower looked way too dark to me, and the new one being less shiny is good in my opinion. But again, it is preference. But I have to say that the textures of the new one are of a much higher quality. Apparently the flamethrower also got a new model, and while I prefer the old one, I have to again say that the textures look nicer on the new one. This one is about lighting again, which is, as I've said, preference, but I think it looks not as brash. The new Medigun looks definitely way less comically huge in first person, and that is much nicer to me. Again, in the new version we can see more detailed textures, which is a good change. Alright, here we can see that the lighting is definitely way darker than it was back then, but more on that later. For some reason the logo is missing here, which I don't think there's any excuse for that. That should definitely come back. I mean, where did it go? Alright, here I gotta say it's a really nitpicky change. I mean, it's just the spot on the wall and that's not even noticeable. I suppose it could be considered an issue, which I don't really, because it's not really obvious or bad. But to be honest, who even cares or notices? The new model doesn't break, but it definitely should. He's completely right about that. Valve, get in on that. The new revolver is way less shiny, which looks much nicer, because the old one looked really weird with all these white rims on it. As with the minigun, the new reload is much better, because it doesn't block the screen as much and was actually demanded by the community. The new glass is way too opaque and I think it should be way more transparent. That may be due to lighting, but that's not an excuse. The medic's hand holding the gun is also still messed up, which again is not excusable, and the cylinder should also spin in the new version. I find it interesting that for some reason the lighting on the syringe gun stayed the same, even though I think it should be more matte nowadays. Apparently all the guns having different lighting is because at some point Valve changed the models of the weapon to a different type, which broke the lighting. Meaning that this is indeed an oversight by Valve. Okay, wow, the knife was huge in the old version and the new one is much more subtle and looks way less silly, which really fits Spy's character. This is a really good change, because after all, butterfly knives aren't machetes or anything. This is a very valid complaint. The zappers should definitely still appear nowadays with an option to turn them off. But also, notice how the shadows on the floor look much nicer in the recent TF2. Is that due to the changed lighting on the maps, or because the game engine changed? I don't know, but it looks much nicer. This is again more lighting, gonna stop mentioning it. Now, I have some mixed feelings on the water. I mean, the old one looks nicer, but it is a bit too realistic and detailed for TF2. I think it fits Half-Life or Left 4 Dead more. The new one is much more cartoony, but it could use more detail. But then again, how many maps even have water in them? If they were to update the water, then I think it should be a mix of the two. It should be a highly detailed, cartoony water. Maybe this is just me, but I think the Scout looks much nicer nowadays, due to the lighting pronouncing his features more. The lighting of the face is a bit too dark at times, but that's preference in my opinion. You can also see his expressions a lot more nowadays, even though he looks a bit older, but you know, the game has also aged, you know. My question is though, what about the other mercs? He didn't show those. Are they better or worse or the same as these? I'm not accusing him of anything, I'm just wondering what the rest of the mercs look like. The chambers not having grenades in them anymore is bad, I still wish they had them. But at the same time, the old grenade launcher didn't remove grenades with every shot, meaning that when the demo man finally reloads it, they all suddenly disappear. So the new one is much more consistent, but I think it should be again a mix. It should show grenades and remove them one at a time and then add new ones. So both versions are both wrong and right. But to be honest, reloading the same chamber every time is just lazy. Come on, Valve, update that. For some reason, the new sniper rifle doesn't have a muzzle flash anymore, and I just wonder, why? It looked nicer. The new one ejected the shell on the wrong side, and while the new one does eject it on the right side, it appears behind the rifle, and it should definitely appear in the hole instead. This, in my opinion, is one of the best changes to the game, because picking up ammo packs instead of weapons is much more consistent. In the old TF2, sometimes it was really hard to notice tiny weapons on the floor like the revolver or the flare gun. The new ammo boxes, however, are much more noticeable, so this is a really nice change from a gameplay perspective. Alright. The weapons not being pushed around anymore is debatable. I personally don't see any reason not to have it in, except for maybe lag caused by all the physics, but then again that shouldn't even be the case. At the same time, however, I also don't see a reason to include it. I mean, it's nice, but is it necessary? Also, you can still push ammo boxes around using explosions, so if you want to shoot ammo towards you, like you could back then, you can still do that. With this one, I had issues at first noticing the difference. Apparently, the new one has less smoke? But I would call this another nitpick, like the spot on the wall. Because it's just on one map and at the same time it's not even all that noticeable. It would be nice if the game still had it, but at the same time it's not really an issue in my opinion. And the last comparison. Not having pain screams from fall damage anymore is a very good thing, because the old one sounded really bad and didn't fit any of the classes, and everyone had the same screams, so that made it even worse. Now, about the bad lighting on the maps. So, from what I've heard, that's only an issue on the very first maps of the game due to them having a different lighting system. Valve should definitely update the lighting on these old maps, but there's almost 100 maps in the game now, which are all designed around the new lighting system, so 90% of all the maps in the game don't even have these issues. This comparison, in my opinion, paints a very bad image of TF2. It might imply that all maps in the game have really awful lighting nowadays, when in reality it's just a few. It'd be like showing how the rocket launcher only has 60 reserve ammo instead of 36 at launch, and then making it look like the weapon got unnecessarily downgraded. We don't know the reason for many of these changes. I'm sure a lot of them were just an oversight by Valve, but others were definitely on purpose and for good reason. I'm also sure that a lot of the changes were made in favor of optimization, and sure, the game may still be very laggy and unoptimized, but perhaps it would have been even worse without those changes. I don't know. But whether or not one can actually improve performance without these changes is unclear to me, and I'm blaming the thousands and thousands of heads in the game on that. At the same time, however, the heads also have a lot of upsides and look nice. For the most part. and they add a whole new layer of customization. I'd even argue that they're one of the main reasons why the game is even still popular, but that topic deserves a video of its own. Just as a side note, I know this video was mostly just about comparing graphics, but TF2 has improved a lot more when it comes to gameplay, classes, maps, weapons, etc. I'm not complaining about the video, just keep this in mind when talking about it. The game isn't suddenly downgraded just because some of the graphics aren't as nice as they used to be. I mean, look at some of the new maps. They look fantastic, like Upward and Sawmill, Manhattan and Rottenburg. And those are just maps made by Valve. The community makes some amazing maps as well. So my final verdict is, yes, some of the changes shown in this video were indeed bad, like the broken map lighting. Some are debatable, like the lighting on the guns. Others are much better, like the ammo boxes or the view models being smaller. So all in all, it's a mixed bag. But to be honest, I wouldn't say that the graphics got downgraded, only if you look at these very early things. At the same time though, Valve added a lot of great stuff to the game, which drastically improved it. And that wasn't even shown in CrowbCat's video, because well, it wasn't in the game back then. And stop saying TF2 is dead or Valve gave up. You're pretending like Valve hates graphics or its player base. Most of these changes are just an oversight and not even that big of an issue. Valve should fix a lot of them, sure, but it really doesn't matter for many of them. Like, who honestly cares about the water? Anyway, those were my opinions. What about you? Did you think CrowbCat's comparisons were fair? Do you agree or disagree with me? Just write a comment below. I usually try to read them, so let me know what you think. Also, please post feedback and criticism, as I want to use that to improve my videos in the future. But that is it for me, have a fantastic day and goodbye!